afternoon, Rip City. Chris Burkhardt here with you today for another exciting episode of Blazers Game Day. Why is it exciting? Because Blazers Game Day means it's a Blazers game. What is there not to be excited about as the Blazers look to keep the winning streak alive? Currently have won 5 in a row. The best active winning streak in the NBA at the moment, and they get to wrap up this homestand by welcoming the New York Knicks to Moda Center this afternoon. If you want to join the conversation, you hit us up on our Rip City Radio text line. Just text 88528 or go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat there. The Blazers, as I said, currently with a 5-game winning streak, the best active winning streak in the NBA at the moment, and they did it in a very improbable way by getting 2 back-to-back victories over the Houston Rockets over the last 2 games, and those games were highly improbable because the Houston Rockets, one of the best teams in the Western Conference. Now, they were playing without Alfred Şengün, which does make a big impact. He is one of their best players. But this is a team that still has Kevin Durant on it and Steven Adams, who's an absolute force. And all the things that we know about this team, they're going to make you work. And they made the Blazers work. And Kevin Durant missed a game winner in the first game. There was a tip-in from Tari Eason, but it came when the clocks had already hit zeros. Blazers win. And then in the next game, which was 2 nights ago, the Blazers battle back from 13 down to start the fourth quarter and probably come back, hold on to the lead, make big plays late. Chance to still hold on to hope. Kevin Durant inbounds the ball. Sidy Cissoko steals it. And as Travis Demers says, it's a Rip City winner, as the Blazers win back-to-back games over the Rockets, extend the win streak to 5, and now welcome in the New York Knicks, and the Blazers are just 1 game away from 500 ball, sitting at 19-20 right now. And as things stand in the standings, no pun intended there, the Blazers have a 2-game they're 2 games back from the Golden State Warriors, who are currently 8th place in the Western Conference, and the Blazers have a 2.5-game lead over the Memphis Grizzlies, who are currently 10th. We've seen the Clippers kind of storm back. They're playing good basketball. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and they're sitting there 4 games back from the Trailblazers. So this win streak coming at a good time, and very, very good for the Blazers, who are trying to hold on to that play-in spot. Now, speaking of good for the Blazers, I do want to get in to the box score, what happened against Houston just a few nights ago. But the biggest news of the day is what came across the injury wire, and I'm not talking about the unfortunate injury wire. And that news was that Chris Murray is dealing with a lower lumbar injury. He will be reevaluated, and his status will be updated as appropriate, but he's going to miss a little bit of action dealing with that low back injury. However, on the opposite side of that, the Blazers finally got good injury news, as just 2 hours ago when the Blazers updated their injury report for the day, both Drew Holiday and Robert Williams listed as probable. So it looks like Drew Holiday will make his return to the lineup tonight against the New York Knicks, and he has not played since November, and the Blazer fans have been missing him. The Blazers lineup has been missing him. Biggest thing to watch tonight in this one, he'll probably be on a minutes restriction. We know how these injuries tend to work, so I'll probably expect to see him play about 15 minutes, likely coming off the bench. But this means, at least for a chunk of the game tonight, that second unit's going to have a point guard, someone who can run the sets. It's not going to be all just Denny Avdia. That is a thing of beauty. Speaking of Denny Avdia and the current team, though, let's look at how that game against Houston played out on Friday night. The Blazers grabbed a 111-105 victory, and the big reason was that fourth quarter. They outscored the Rockets 34-15. in that fourth quarter. That is absolutely incredible stuff right there. The Blazers defense coming up when it needed to come up big. And in the start of that fourth quarter, when they're trailing and you're going, okay, they have to make a run, they didn't have the offensive lineup out there to make that run as you would suspect. I mean, there was Dwop Reith, who ended up coming up very big. Young Hansen was out there, Shaden Sharp, City Sissoko, Caleb Love. You're like, this is not the who's who of lineups when it's one that needs to score big and come back from a big deficit. But they did. They made the plays they needed to make defensively. They were locked in, and that 15 points that Houston scored in the fourth quarter tied for the fewest points the Blazers have allowed in the fourth quarter all season. They also allowed just 15 points against Detroit on December 22nd. So a very, very good performance defensively from your Trailblazers, and that 15 points, not just the fewest points they've allowed in the fourth quarter, that's tied for the fewest points they have allowed in any quarter this season. So again, defensively, they showed up. Houston won the points in the paint battle 44-40. Second chance points were in favor of the Blazers 22-16. The Blazers were much more aggressive on the offensive boards than they were in the previous game. And kudos to Houston and Ime Udoka. They had a much different game plan than in the first game. A lot more blitzing of the pick and rolls, double teaming on Denny Avdia like crazy, and trying to get the ball out of his hands. And yeah, he didn't drop a 41 piece, but he still found ways to get involved and make an impact on this game. But you look down a lot of places, bench points was pretty even, turnovers were even, points off turnovers were even. So you got to start looking where the difference was in this game. Free throws is definitely one where the Blazers converted on 21 of 23 attempts. Meanwhile, Houston made just 15 of their 24 shots. So that's a 6-point difference right there. And then the Rockets came into this game as a top 5 3-point shooting team in the NBA. They don't take a lot, but they make them at a high clip, shooting 38% on the year. And in the first game, they held them to 22%. And so you're sitting here going, okay, I don't know if that's going to happen 2 games in a row against the same team, but we were wrong. The Rockets shot 10 of 44 from beyond the arc, good for 22%. Meanwhile, the Blazers shot 16 of 44, so there is a 18-point difference in three-pointers alone. The Blazers actually made fewer field goals in this game, 37 to the 40 of the Rockets, but overall, they made more threes and they made more free throws. That was the difference. Individually, Kevin Durant, another stellar game, 30 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. He also ended up passing Wilt Chamberlain for 7th all-time on the NBA's leading scorer list. A pretty cool moment where Mark Mason announced it coming out of a timeout, and Kevin Durant noticed that and went over and gave Mark Mason the face bump, obviously a sign of respect. And then he acknowledged the crowd after the game. He's like, it meant a lot. Portland is a town that knows basketball, and for them to acknowledge it, that was pretty cool. So shout out to Blazer fans for tipping their hat to an opponent in this one. And before I continue on, we do get a YouTube chat. Someone asking, is Drew playing today? He's listed as probable, which, as Terry Stotts once told me, probable means probably he is going to play. So we'll be on the lookout for Drew Holiday tonight. Looking elsewhere through that lineup, Jabari Smith Jr. had 13 points. Steven Adams, 5 points, 9 rebounds. 24 points from Amen Thompson. Reed Shepherd had 20 points off of the Houston Rockets bench. On the Trailblazers side of things, Toumani Camara, 25 points, career high. Beautiful night from him. 9 of 16 from the floor, 5 of 11 from beyond the arc. Really got the Blazers going to start the game when they needed it. City Sissoko had 13 points, came up big defensively as well. Donovan Clingan had a massive game. He only scored 8 points, but 15 rebounds, 6 assists, and some block shots. So very good game from him. Denny Avdia, like I said, didn't drop the 21 or the 41, but he had 20 points, 6 assists, 3 boards. He was getting a lot of attention from that Houston defense because, like I said, they changed up everything about how they were going to guard him from game 1. They had to get the ball in everyone else's hands. You had almost 4 players score 20 or more points because Shaden Sharp chipped in 20, Caleb Love chipped in 18, and then Dwop Reith only scored 3 points, but he had 2 block shots, swatting some corner threes back into the stands. He came up massive when they needed him to in just his 10 minutes. Robert Williams played just 6 minutes, left with a little bit of knee soreness, was precautionary, but he's listed as probable for tonight. And you start to wonder why they monitor his minutes and he doesn't play on second nights of back-to-backs. That's why, because that injury bug and that knee still have a tendency to flare up. In the YouTube chat, Jason chimes in, says, "Go Niners." That's right. Niners looking to take down the Eagles and advance in the playoffs tonight. You know, I'll be watching. Hopefully it's not as bad as my football viewing experience on Friday, because as a Duck fan, that one hurt. But I'll say it here with the headset on, speak it to the world. I still love my Ducks, and I still love Dan Lanning. Don't go anywhere. Dan's the guy. Absolutely love him. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we return, we're going to head to the coach's corner, hear what Tiago Splitter has to say ahead of this game, hopefully get some updates on that Drew Holiday and Robert Williams, and get you locked in for Blazers versus Knicks here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you, just waiting on head coach Tiago Splitter to get down to the podium. When he does, we'll pod that audio up and hear from him ahead of this game. He'll give us an update on Drew Holiday and Robert Williams, and hopefully both playing tonight. They were listed as probable, which is usually a good indicator that they are going to play. But I want to hear it straight from the coach's mouth and to our ears so that we know that that's going to happen. A big get for Drew Holiday to have him back. The Blazers have definitely been missing him, not only what he brings defensively, but his ability to run the offense and slow that team down when they need it. It's been all Denny Avdia, no other point guards. We've been saying for weeks now, just need a point guard, just need a point guard, just need a point guard. And we'll ask Tiago after the game how nice it was to have a point guard back should he play tonight. So we're just waiting on Tiago Splitter at the podium and hear from him. Sounds like he's there, so let's take a listen.
Yeah, he's playing.
With Rob?
Yep, that's the plan.
You're going to start?
Not going to give you that yet, Sean, but he's playing.
What's your reaction to that? I mean, I know you're sick of us bugging you about it, but I can see the smile on your face. Just him returning, what does that do for you guys?
I mean, we miss him a lot, as you guys know. Just controlling situations and end of the games. The team on the court, he's another coach out there, just putting everybody else in their spots, and just a vet that being in every situation possible in the game. So just having him back, even though he's probably not going to play a lot of minutes, it's just a great sign for us.
So he'll be on a minutes limit.
City was quoted in a recent article where he said that when you told him he was going to make his first career start, he shed a tear. Were you aware of how emotional he got? And was that a special moment for you to deliver that news to him?
No, I was not aware, but City is he's an emotional guy, and I'm not sure he probably lied there, but just to see him working for his minutes and just to be an NBA player, because he is fighting for that, and so happy for him with all the effort that he's put in this last year. So.
And of course he hustles, that's kind of his calling card, but apart from that, what does he do what about him and his game makes the coaching staff trust him this season?
Well, effort is a big talent in this league. Is a talent, and he brings it every night. He's going to try to do the right thing. He's going to compete. He's going to box out. He's going to run. He's going to push the pace. Sometimes he's going to make mistakes, but you got to live with. He just put his heart there and play basketball.
What's your read on this Knicks team? What are some things they do well?
Yeah, it's a very talented team. Very difficult to guard. They got shooters all over the place. Five that stretches the floor, so that's always a issue for every defense. Brunson just leading the team with picking the defenses apart, and it's very, I think they're top three shooting threes, offense rebound. They're also a great team that crashes a lot and get to the board. So it's a very, very difficult task this afternoon.
And there you heard right off the top, he will play. He was being asked about Drew Holiday. So there's your update. Drew Holiday will be in the lineup tonight, so that's a big get for the Trailblazers. You heard them ask about it again, like just what does it mean to have him back? You can see the smile on your face, and I think there's a couple things there. I've talked a lot about just someone who can slow the pace down, play point guard, run that half-court offense, which is what they're missing because Denny has been running all that. And people get mad at Denny Avdia's turnovers, and I get that, but also he's putting the ball in his hands more than ever before. And keep in mind that he's not a true point guard. He started this year as your starting power forward. So, yeah, think about that for a second. You get Drew Holiday back. You get someone who can run that offense, take the ball out of Denny's hands. And one thing we've seen even during this win streak is when you take the ball out of Denny's hands and then he goes to the bench and you have to put it in Caleb Love's and Shaedon Sharp's hands, it's just not the same. And the offense does not run the same through those two guys. And Drew Holiday, it's not going to run the same as with Denny, but it's for the better, because again, you're putting it into the hands of a guy who's a true point guard who knows how to run those offenses, and biggest thing is slow the team down when they need to slow down. And you heard Thiago say it, and it's something that gets overlooked by guys like me sometimes, but he talked about him being a coach on the floor, a guy who can, again, get in people's ears, make sure they're in the right place. Defensively gives him another guy who's phenomenal on that end. So everything about this is good for your Portland Trail Blazers tonight as Drew Holiday returns to face the New York Knicks. Now, the Knicks are a team that is good. Don't get us wrong. We all know that. You look at the NBA standings, and they're one of the best in the Eastern Conference. They're 24-14 on the season. For perspective, that would put them at 5th in the Western Conference. They're currently 3rd in the Eastern Conference, sandwiched between the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors. Overall, they're 4.5 games back of the Detroit Pistons, who are 28-9, which is the second best record in the NBA. But for the Knicks, it's been a little bit of a rough go as of late. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They are 1-5 in their last 6. And you look at that last 6, that was a tight one, a 134-132 loss to the San Antonio Spurs, then a 111-99 loss to the Atlanta Hawks, a 130-119 loss to the Philadelphia 76ers, 121-90 loss to the Detroit Pistons. They got a win over the Clippers, 123-111, and then they lost their last game, a 112-107 game to the Phoenix Suns. So they lost 4 in a row, won 1, and then lost 1 again. And in that game against the Phoenix Suns, Phoenix was out to a big lead, held the game most of that game, just controlled everything they needed to do. Phoenix only scored 18 points in the fourth quarter and was still able to win because defensively they held the Knicks to 21. It was a rough game. 15 points for OG Anunoby. Karl Anthony Towns had 15. Mikal Bridges had 11. 27 from Jalen Brunson. Miles McBride had 17. Keep in mind they don't have any Josh Hart right now, so that's a big blow to their lineup. And in that game against the Suns, Dylan Brooks went off for 27 points. Great performance from him. He's been getting so much better offensively. Devin Booker had 31 points, so just did Devin Booker things. Rebounding numbers were in favor of the Knicks. The three-point numbers were about the same. And so you're like, okay, where did this game change? They did make 3 more free throws, the Suns did. Then the Knicks. Did the turnovers do them in? Yes, they did. The Suns had just 9 turnovers. Meanwhile, the Knicks had 17. So maybe that's something that the Blazers can look at tonight, really attack that defensively, try to force those turnovers. And then, of course, be extra aggressive on the glass. We'll talk about that more throughout this game. But this New York Knicks team it's similar to the Rockets team in the fact that you cannot overlook them no matter what you do, because the Knicks are a very, very good basketball team. They're well coached. Jalen Brunson is absolutely a star, but at the same time, they have holes in their game. So how do you take advantage of that and play it to your favor and win a ball game? And you look at the last 6 games they played, and as we mentioned, they went 1-5 in those games. I mean, Atlanta is not a great team. Philly is up and down. They did get a win over the Clippers, but they've been up and down too. So you got to understand that sometimes those games they played, they've been easier games. It's like Detroit. Detroit has had a very, very easy schedule. That's why they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference record-wise. And I'm not using that to dog them, because good teams win those games. They don't lose. If the Knicks are a good team, they don't go to Indianapolis like they did a few weeks ago and lose. And they didn't. They won. It was a tight game, but they won. Good teams will win those games. So having an easy schedule is not necessarily a bad thing, but it also understand that, hey, they're maybe they're a little easier to beat than we think. It's just like Blazers on the outside of that had such a tough schedule that maybe they're not as easy of an out as people think. Doesn't mean that they're great, but they are maybe a little better than you think just by looking at that record. And so the Knicks are one that I'm not dogging them. I like this team. Like I said, well coached, tons of talent, very, very good basketball team, but they have holes. And the Blazers can absolutely exploit them and try to extend that win streak to 6 today, which would be absolutely phenomenal. The Blazers are playing good ball right now, and then getting Drew Holiday back is going to be massive. Hopefully it doesn't hurt because you're so used to the rotations for a minute. But again, you don't have Chris Murray who's out. You still don't have Blake Wesley. You don't have Matisse Thybulle. You don't have Scoot Henderson. But guess what? You're getting one of those guys back. And that's absolutely awesome. And you're going to need it tonight because you're going to have your hands full. Jalen Brunson is an absolute stud in the NBA. He's a star in this league, and you get to experience it firsthand tonight here at Moda Center, just like Blazer fans were fortunate enough to see 2 straight games of Kevin Durant and be reminded that even in his late 30s, the dude is still an absolute bucket getter. So is Jalen Brunson. So having a guy like Drew Holiday can play defense on him for, I guess, it's going to be about 15 minutes tonight with the minutes restrictions. Of course, we haven't got an update yet on what the starting lineup will be. You did hear our reporter, Sean Hyken, ask Tiago Splitter, and he's like, I'm not going to give you that just yet, Sean. So we'll see what that lineup is. But regardless, Drew Holiday back tonight as the Blazers play the New York Knicks. We're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day, but if you want to join the conversation, you can head to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, join the conversation there. Or you can hit us up on the text line, 88528. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with plenty more here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. It's a nice day here. Lots of football going on. I'm under strict orders to not talk about it because Michael Shacker's he's in the dark. He doesn't want to be ruined, so we won't ruin anyone's football today. Hopefully we do ruin New York Knicks basketball fans' day, and the Blazers extend the win streak to 6. That'd be absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. As Marcus says in the YouTube chat, going to be real weird seeing an actual point guard on the court. No, it is. It is, but it's also going to be really, really nice to actually see a true point guard on the court once again. And for those of you just tuning in and are wondering what we're talking about, the Blazers did announce today that Drew Holiday was listed as probable for tonight's game, and Tiago Splitter just about 15 minutes ago in his pregame press conference did confirm that he will play tonight against the Knicks. Doesn't confirm if he's going to start. Coming off the bench, did not mention how many minutes he will play. I would just assume under all these situations you come in and you have a minutes restriction. But Drew Holiday, it seems weird. He only played 12 games this season so far before getting hurt. He was averaging 16.7 points, 8.3 assists, 1.6 steals, and was playing very, very well for this team. So they're going to absolutely need him. It's so nice to have him back. Going to be reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks, and that turns into months, and you're like, oh, no. Why? What's going on? I don't like this at all. Is he ever going to play again? Are they in tank mode? Well, he's back, and he has not played in almost exactly 2 months. Almost exactly 2 months. His last game he played was November 14th at Houston, a game that the Blazers lost 140 to 116. Since then, he has not dressed. So it's going to be nice to have him back tonight. And again, someone you can trust, someone you can get the ball into their hands. It doesn't have to just be Denny Avdia all the time. And as I mentioned a few times, what's big to me is a guy who can slow down the offense a little bit and really run those half-court sets. Now, this team is not built on tons and tons of half-court sets. They like to use Denny, get out in space, run, and use their cardio and just beat teams that way. Like I said, be metal, tempo. But one of their weaknesses has been when that's not working or they need to slow down and reset, not having the ability to do so. Now they have the ability to do so. And again, with only probably my guess is about 15 minutes, so you're probably going to see him for about 7 minutes in the first half and about 7 minutes in the second. They'll be okay. We'll eventually get the full run of Drew Holiday. But regardless, just going to be nice to see him back on the court. And it does feel like Scoot Henderson as well is getting closer to being available. I did see him on Friday out there warming up. Saw Jeremy Grant too, and Matisse Thybulle, but the big thing was Scoot Henderson was taking actual jump shots, which is massive because saw him a few games prior to that. He was taking just standing jump shots, so just from the waist up, just working on the wrist flick and everything that goes into the arm motion, still being cautious with that hamstring. But no, last game he was taking some actual jump shots out in the corner, so you might get couple point guards back, which would be really, really nice for this team because speaking of point guards, the one that they're going to be playing tonight is pretty damn good in Jalen Brunson. He's found his home in New York and has absolutely blossomed into one of the best guards in the entire league for the Knicks and turned into the star they wanted. He's leading the team right now with 29 points per game. He's also averaging 6.3 assists. You got to deal with Karl Anthony Towns tonight as well, who averages 21.3 points. So this is going to be one of those games. It's going to be very, very big for Young Hansen and Donovan Clingan and Robert Williams. The reason I bring up Young Hansen is I would not be surprised you see him a little bit tonight, especially with Robert Williams leaving last game early with a little bit of a knee injury, a little bit of soreness flaring up. So you don't know if that soreness flares back up or the team really monitors his minutes to make sure that that knee's okay. But either way, the centers are going to have to come up big tonight because Karl Anthony Towns is a guy who can get out there and score with the best of them. It's also going to be really, really interesting defensively how you approach this because we're talking about Karl Anthony Towns who can spread the floor and hit three-pointers. So you're going to put Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen and Robert Williams all in those positions where they're not the most comfortable guarding. So how do you make sure that they're not getting into spots where they're just totally exposed? It's going to be very incumbent that you get the entire team playing defense tonight and try not to leave anybody out on an island. On the YouTube chat, Marcus chimes back in and says, hopefully Denny gets some more rest on the bench with Drew back. That's a big plus, Marcus, because one thing that's been unfortunate about Denny is just you can tell late in games he's been gassed, and he should be. I mean, he's playing 40 minutes a night on some of these nights while shouldering all the load while playing at the pace he does. That is absolutely exhausting. So you're going to be able to sub him out, sub Drew Holiday in, maybe sub Denny out just a little bit longer at times. And even if it's just a minute of basketball action, that can go a long way in just resetting yourself and getting healthy for the next run of minutes, because coach has kind of been forced to put him back in the lineup quickly because how bad the offense does look when he's not out there. And that's not even something where I'm trying to be disrespectful to what Shaedon Sharpe and Caleb Love are doing. I actually think Shaedon Sharpe, Caleb Love, and Tumani Kamara, for that matter, who have been tasked with kind of being that second point guard a little bit, have been doing a fine job for what we could expect them to do. It's just the ceiling is incredibly low with those guys running the point guard position. Caleb Love is definitely a shooting guard in a bit of a point guard's body, but he's a shooting guard. Shaedon Sharpe, 100% a shooting guard. Tumani, he's a forward. So putting them into those positions, they're playing out of position, and that can be uncomfortable at times. So making sure that you understand that they're going to be limited is understanding the game a little bit. Now you get Drew Holiday, and you're no longer limited. And so you don't have to sit there and go, okay, the second unit isn't looking good. I got to force Denny to get that back out there a little earlier than I wanted because we need to get the ball back in his hands. You can look at a situation tonight where you go, okay, Denny, you're out. Drew, you're in. Let's run this bad boy. Let's not skip a beat. So that's going to be absolutely crucial tonight. And like Marcus said earlier, it's just going to be weird and nice to see at the same time. A point guard back in the lineup, a true point guard. Again, he was averaging 8.3 assists when he left through 12 games. A pretty good run of what he was doing. He was running the offense very, very efficiently. Like, very efficiently. So very, very nice to see. And, of course, Coach made it official, but the Blazers PR just made it officially official. Drew Holiday and Robert Williams III are available to play tonight per Trailblazers PR. Marcus chimes back in. Shaedon and Love were very good at the start of the fourth quarter in the second Houston game, but it would look better with Drew. Sorry, I'll stop now. No, you don't got to stop. Keep chiming in with the comments, man. I appreciate it and I love it. But no, they did. They looked great. Like I said, where I'm talking about their limitations as point guards and looking at it with a critical eye, definitely not knocking them, because I think Caleb Love has been exceptional. And I think Shaedon Sharpe has been good as well. But they've been asked to do things that aren't their strengths. And they've been doing them, and it hasn't looked great at times. But you got to tip your hat and give kudos to them for taking on that extra burden while the team is hurt. And I think Caleb Love is a great example, because he's been asked to play that point guard spot a lot, and that's not his strength. You've seen it a little bit here. Like, where does he excel? I don't want to put the ball in his hands and have him try to create his shot. I want him out there doing a little bit more of that catch and shoot, because when he can get that base really set, he's not moving, and someone can find him wide open, he tends to hit that shot. So I like what Caleb Love has done, and then, of course, I love what Shaedon Sharpe has been doing. It's okay to be critical about how they run the point guard position. Like I said, if the average ceiling is, yay high, well, then when they run it, it drops down by a couple feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can still hit the ceiling, but the ceiling's just not as high as it is with other players. And then you get Drew Holiday, and it completely changes everything. So I can't wait to see him tonight. I've been clamoring on this show in the fifth quarter, like, we need a point guard back. We need a point guard back. Coach Thiago Splitter has said multiple times, what's this team missing right now, Coach? He laughs. He goes, a point guard. Well, now you got a point guard tonight. That's going to go a long way. And we're just talking about, too, what the game looks like from an offensive perspective. But we haven't even touched what it looks like from a defensive perspective. Because, again, against a guy like Jalen Brunson, you're going to probably put a lot of Tumani Kamara on him. You've relied in tough situations, like in that game a few nights ago where Kevin Durant, took what could have been the game winner. Ryan Rupert was on him. You've trusted him in those situations. Caleb Love has stepped up and tried to play defense in clutch time, but nobody is as good at that position defensively than Drew Holiday. He's one of the best in the entire league. Shooting guard, point guard, doesn't matter. Just guard, defense. I found it to be very cruel to Drew that Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year and was the first guard to win it since Gary Payton, when there was a time when Drew Holiday was, and he still might be, one of the best defensive guards to ever play the game. When you would ask Dame, like, who's the best defensive guard right now, the toughest guy to go against? Oh, Drew Holiday. You'd ask C.J. McCollum, same thing, without hesitation, Drew Holiday. He's a stud on that end, so he's going to offer a lot there too, friends. It's not just what he can do offensively to slow the pace down when you need it and keep the team in control. Defensively, it's going to give you a guy that can really lock up the opposing team as well. The opposing team tonight being the New York Knicks. They are coming in. No Landry Shamet. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. And no Josh Hart, which is unfortunate because I know Blazer fans love Josh Hart. He's out per their lineup as well, dealing with an injury. No, Ubaselli is day-to-day as well. So that's your kind of injury lineup there. It said Hart was listed as questionable. There has been an update per ESPN that he was out. That could change. If I get an official updated word from the Knicks, I'll definitely let you know. But all things considered, nice to get a healthy body back. And at the end of the day, and Marcus is doing it in the chat as well, like you gotta tip your hat to some of these guys the way they've been playing. He says Rupert will have to seriously lock in and grow with Murray out indefinitely, and he will. And for those of you, again, just catching up, Murray dealing with a lumbar pain. He is out. He'll be really evaluated, and updates will come appropriately. But there's no timetable when he'll return. Has missed the last 2 games. That's why City Sissoko has been starting. Like, that's the trouble of this team. City Sissoko was starting for the injured Chris Murray, who was starting for the injured Jeremy Grant. So you need some of those healthy bodies back. But to our point a second ago about giving some of these guys some kudos for their work, I think, like, honestly, through this last 5-6 games, Ryan Rupert has been very, very good. Like, again, you're not writing home and saying that he's your starter or anything, but for, again, what he's been asked to do, he's been playing probably the best stretch of his career. I think he feels the heat on him a little bit because the questions are coming now are, what are the Blazers going to do with this roster? Is it going to be a trade or an outright release? Because they don't have the room to give City Sissoko and or Caleb Love a full-time contract. Those guys are both two-way guys, and they have both absolutely played their way into deals. They are deserving of full-time NBA contracts. City Sissoko has been phenomenal for this team, and then Caleb Love has been a guy that you can rely upon to go score. They have earned that spot. So the only way to do it is either cut Ryan Rupert and Dwap Reith, or you maybe pull a trade. Could be something big like a Jeremy Grant and those pieces to bring something in, or it could be something as small as Dwap Reith goes to Team X and you get a second-round pick. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you're working around the edges that way and you're Joe Cronin and you're deciding the best way to free up the roster spot is to trade Dwap Reith and get a pick in back, no player, I hope it's via trade. Like, I hope that's how you free up that spot and it's not via release, because I would hope that you send Dwap Reith somewhere where he gets to play, because he's been great for the Blazers when they ask him to step up in situations. Goes from not playing a few games to being defensively locked in and getting 2 huge block shots against Houston the other night. So if you have to use him to free up a spot, I hope it's via trade so he doesn't go to the free agent market and then be very unclear what his future is. I hope it'd be via trade so that, hey, you can go sit on the bench in Boston, but at least you're on a bench. You know what I mean? He deserves that because he's been great. All right, this is Blazers Game Day. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. Thank you to Marcus for all your comments in the YouTube section. Never think you have to stop. You just load that bad boy up with comments. I'll catch up to them as fast as I can and comment on them. That's what I do. If you don't want to jump on YouTube, hit us up on the text line, 88528. You can send us your text messages there as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, it's time for our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to extend their season best winning streak to 6 and upset the New York Knicks? I will let you know when we return here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Time now for our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to get a victory over the New York Knicks? Now, the Knicks, as we have said, are stumbling a little bit. They are still one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, but they are just 1-5 over their last 6 games. Not a great place to be. So how do you beat them? The thing is, if you look at statistics, this Knicks team is very, very similar to the Rockets team that the Blazers just played, in the fact that they shoot the 3 ball extremely well. They are number 3 in the league at 38.3%, and they rebound the ball pretty darn well too. So that's what the Blazers have to deal with tonight, because the Knicks are 5th in the league overall in rebounds at 45.9, and just like the Rockets, they are a top 5 team on the offensive glass. The Knicks right now 4th in the league. Houston came in at number 1. Now Houston came in averaging 16 rebounds on the offensive side of the glass, and they had 20 plus in both of those games. We saw 2 possessions, one in each game, where they picked up about 5 offensive rebounds in one possession. So the Blazers have to crash the defensive glass tonight. I think it's going to be absolutely crucial against this New York Knicks team. And the difference, I think, a little bit too between them and the Rockets is the Rockets would get those rebounds and just instantly kick out and try to hit the next shot. With this Knicks team, they can get that rebound, kick out to Brunson, and reset their offense and just really milk you if they want to. They can do the exact same thing Houston did, right? Get the ball out and take another quick shot, but they can find ways to beat you if they get those offensive boards. The Blazers, still number 2 offensive on the offensive glass, so that's where they're going to have to use their strength in this one, is really attack that glass too, get their second chance points, don't get blown out on that end, and you got to play defense along that 3-point line. The difference between the Rockets and the Knicks when it comes to 3-point shooting is the fact that the Rockets were top 5 in percentage, but they were bottom 5 in attempts per game. They are currently second to last, only to the Sacramento Kings in fewest attempts per game. As for the Knicks are 7th in the NBA in 3-point attempts per game. So it's the take a lot, make a lot team. So you got to be very, very cognizant of where you are outside that 3-point arc. This is where it goes back to what I said earlier about the Blazers' big men, whether it be Young or Robert Williams or Donovan Clingan, is be very, very prepared to guard that 3-point line, because there's probably no big man better in the league than Karl Anthony Towns at stretching you and making you defend out there, because he can hit that shot with ease. So you got to be very, very cognizant of that and make sure that you aren't left out on an island where you can't get back in the paint should they have their backdoor cuts, because he can pass the ball too. So you got to be very, very smart defensively, which is very, very nice to have Drew Holiday back. Because if there's a guy who can be on the floor making sure everyone's in the right spot at the right time on the defensive side of the ball while also helping, because he can guard just about anyone, it's Drew Holiday. So it's nice to have him back. And for those of you just tuning in, Drew Holiday's back. That is right. Tiago Splitter confirmed that he will play tonight. He was listed as probable early today, but he is back. We got comments on YouTube say, how about Denny with a triple-double today? That would be beautiful. That would help to win. And then Theater Lightman 89 says, I love the hunger the team has. I hope as the other players become healthy, they come in hungry as well. And I think they will, my friend, because that can be a culture thing. And if you pay attention to how this bench reacts, one thing I love is, like, yes, he hasn't played all season, but who's one of, like, the first guys off the bench just absolutely going crazy when something cool happens for this team? It's Scoot Henderson. He's a team player, and you love that. Who has been up off the bench, in guys' ears, coaching them, putting them in the right spot, celebrating? Guys like Drew Holiday. So culturally, they're all locked in together. And then you get those guys back healthy, I think you're going to stay locked in. So that's a good comment. Pay attention to how that bench reacts tonight. You'll see what I'm talking about. All right, music means it's time to go for me, not for you. Keep it locked in, because coming up next across the Trailblazers audio network, Chad Doing has your Trailblazers pregame show, and then he'll hand the mic off to Travis Demers. 3 o'clock tip, Blazers versus Knicks. So when it's all said and done, keep it locked in right here for the 5th quarter, where hopefully we're breaking down a Trailblazers victory. Rip City, I'll talk to you after the game.